Good to go. Good afternoon and welcome to this council meeting for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. It is December 10th, 2025, and it is 5 p.m. and I'll call this meeting to order. Tara, please.
Moved by Droulard, seconded by Dryfout, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And Councillor Droulard will give our land acknowledgement.
We will begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. We also acknowledge the local Lower Thames River watershed communities, which include Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original people of Turtle Island. We are thankful for the opportunity to live, learn, and share with mutual respect and appreciation.
Thank you. I would remind council of any declaration of pecuniary interest.
I have a declaration, item number 7, the delegation working relationship. Don't want to participate in the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further. The adoption of the draft minutes, they were included in your agenda package. I think I'm getting an echo. Are there any corrections, errors, or omissions in the minutes? They will be adopted as presented to council in the agenda package. Tara, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. And item 6 on our agenda is Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. And I believe Mark is joining us virtually.
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
We can. Good to see you, Mark. Been a while.
Thank you very much for inviting me and allowing me to speak tonight.
Well, there's a lot happening in your world, so we want to get the lowdown from you.
Certainly. Thank you. I think my presentation is coming up. There it is. So you're right. As Mayor Hentz has already said, there are major things happening with conservation authorities. And I would say in the 65 years that Lower Thames have been around, this is the most significant change that we've seen in all 65 years. Next slide. What I'd like to do is go through a presentation that gives you the two main things that are happening, and then some comments with regards to what the board thought about it, and with regards to what some of the concerns are from a conservation authority perspective. Okay, we can go one more slide, please. So the two main things are the conservation authorities are going to be looking at having a new agency appointed above us called the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, and it is to provide guidance or actually to run many of the elements of dictate many of the elements of how a conservation authority is to run. The second main thing that is happening is there are 36 conservation authorities that were established by local municipalities. The way authorities were established was local municipalities petitioned the government to form an authority, and Dutton Dunwich was part of forming us in 1961, and that they are looking at moving all 36, amalgamating them into 7 large regional conservation authorities. Next slide. So what are these conservation authorities? As I said, they were formed by municipalities. The idea was that we were watershed based. We were based on local decision making, and we were also based on a 50-50% funding share between the province and the municipalities. In 1996, the 50-50% share fell apart when the government essentially canceled 85% of our funding. That has led to the municipalities being the main funders of the conservation authorities, With that funding responsibility came the responsibility to manage and direct the work of the conservation authorities. That was done from the local level, your member being Councillor Loveland, and that happens every board meeting where the board members, which are members of the municipalities, make decisions on the projects and on the conduct of the conservation authorities. We are unique because we're local based. We have local buy-in. Many of the things that we do are done with local community members. It could be tree planting, but it also could be us going out and talking to a landowner about a permit. We are local. We are there. We address the concerns as they come along. Next slide. So the way it works now is there's 317 municipalities that provide support to or guidance to conservation authorities. The Lower Thames has 10 municipalities with 12 members. Chatham-Kent having 3 members because of the size of it. And then we respond directly to the province. What will happen in the future is these very large regional conservation authorities, 7 of them, will respond directly to the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, and then through the Chief Conservation Executive of the province to the ministry. So there's that framework of a new framework of how they're looking at moving things forward. Next slide. So the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, which was created through Bill 60, is in place. That had its 3rd reading, and then royal dissent. I believe it was from about less than 30 days between the 1st reading and the royal assent of that bill. There was no opportunity to comment because it was part of a budget bill, and it went through. It is the agency is created to oversee the conservation authorities reorganization, to basically prescribe what the authorities are to do and how they are to do it, to evaluate performance, to evaluate budgets, and those types of things. The agency is to be run by a board of 12, I think it's 7 to 12 board members appointed through the province. And the funding is the concern in that the first couple of years, it looks like the province will help, but after that, it will be funded by the conservation authorities, which is municipal funding. So what are the big concerns that we have with this? The big concern is that municipalities have no guarantee that they will have representation to sit on this agency, and the agency is going to dictate how municipal agencies' money is spent. So there's an issue between paying and saying. It's unclear how local priorities will be addressed by this agency across the province. And I maybe I'm emphasizing it more than once. The agency will very possibly be funded through municipal levies. It is estimated that it will cost $5 million or so per year to run this agency. Next slide. So the proposed amalgamations, that's the next issue that is being brought forward, is the amalgamation of the 36 conservation authorities into 7. You will notice right in the middle of this map, the Toronto Region Conservation Authority is in red. It is the only authority that is staying the same. Everything else is being amalgamated. So it kind of gives you an idea of what they're going to expect from the rest of us. Next slide. So in our area, there are 8 municipalities or 8 conservation authorities being amalgamated. So in the west, you have Essex and St. Clair, the upper and lower Thames, the Kettle Catfish, Long Point, and the Grand. So you can see the area, it's a massive area of amalgamation. Next slide. So right now, the Lower Thames has 10 municipalities that manage and direct the authority. The new regional will have 81 municipalities, and that's with not all counties being involved. And those 81 go all the way from Hamilton, Guelph, Kitchener-Waterloo, down to Windsor, to Sarnia, to London. Right now, we have a population that we support of 100,000 people, and the new one will be probably closer to 2.2 million or 2.1 million people in this new regional conservation authority. Next slide. What are the concerns? And I think I've mentioned a few of them first. And one of the biggest concerns we have is that we are local. We do things, we plant trees in subdivisions, like last year in Dutton Dunwich. We work with local farmers on phosphorus. We do all this work. And I think it's important that the local municipalities have say regarding our local programs. And that is probably the biggest thing, that local municipalities will lose their say on how their money is to be used. The second one is that every conservation authority tailors their programs to the watersheds that they're trying to work in. And one of the problems with talking about standardizing and having oversight in this thing, the rules of Toronto don't work in the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. We're a rural area. We have to understand, and we've got to work with rural landowners and make things work for people. And that is a big, big, big concern, that the local element of how we deliver services and what our policies are not going to be maintained. The next item is many of our conservation areas were actually donated by people. And they were donated by people for their communities so they could recreate and they could learn about environment and they as a family can do something good for the community. They expected that these lands would be maintained forever by their local conservation authority. They did not donate land to a large regional entity. They donated land to a local entity that hopefully respects what the community or what the family wanted with their lands. Next slide, please. One of the challenges in understanding this is that through the Conservation Authorities Act, the province already possesses the authority to do everything it said we are challenged with. So the regulations and legislation and standards that the province already has can address every concern that they brought up. So why not do that? And we're not 100% sure why we need these massive amalgamations to allow what can happen through instruments that already exist. We also, I want to once again emphasize the importance of local service delivery. As we build these, if we have to move into these regional entities, if we don't maintain local offices, we won't be able to provide local services. One of the ideas that they're thinking is that we're going to provide permits faster. Well, this year we're providing permits within 96.8% of our service target, which for an ordinary permit is 10 days. So I'm not sure how we can get any better than that. And we do it locally. We provide, the people can drop into the office and say, I don't agree with this, and we work it out with them. We also think that there are the goals to get consistent permit approval processes, shared services, and other modernizations can happen. And we support them happening, but we don't think the amalgamations are needed to do that. Next slide. So what did the board say about all this? They said the regional conservation authorities are way too big. Why not leave us alone and either through existing mechanisms or the new agencies, move us to where they want us to be. We can do it with the way we are. That's their first step. Next one. Next slide. Once again, they're too big. Excuse me. But the LTVCA is willing to consider an amalgamation, but on a much smaller scale that allows local municipalities to still have a say. If we are able to amalgamate within like regions that have the same type of residents and same type of issues, that would work. But we also have to make sure the region's small enough that so that every municipality that provides funding to us is involved in determining how this whole thing will look. And that is what the board has asked for. Next slide. One thing that might be able to be used are the source protection regions. Right now, we're grouped with Upper Thames and Lake St. Clair, so the Thames River and Sydenham rivers put together. That might work, but it's the type of thing that we need to start talking about with the province rather than this larger regional conservation authority approach. Next slide. So what's the request? We would request that the municipality ask the province to stop in its plan to create 7 regional conservation authorities, and that you also ask that you look at other ways to achieve what the province needs to do. Because we all believe we have to get more efficient. We all believe that development is important for the health of our communities, but we need to do it in such a way that those who pay have say. So that's the end of my presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mark, for that presentation. I'll just open up the floor if council has any questions. Anything for Mark? Councillor Dreyfus.
Mark, thank you for your presentation. It was a good explanation of the status of the conservation authorities in general. I guess the greater question that I have, and I don't know if you have the answer or not, but the impact on overall cost in general, is the theory behind it to eliminate higher positioned jobs in each local regional conservation authority, and is the intent to reduce overall costs by the province? I guess that's the first question that I have, and the efficiencies. I agree, you're very efficient in the process, but will it help in the overall mandate of the province? I guess is what I'm asking. So.
Through yourself, Mr. Mayor, I don't think so. One of the things about conservation authorities, we're local. Our administrative overhead is around 10% of our budget, where most agencies are around 20%. So we are very efficient. I'm an engineer. Over half my work is still engineering, doing floodplain work, doing design work for elements of our conservation areas, those types of things. We have a very, very limited administrative overhead. There is no doubt in my mind that by creating new layers and creating these larger entities, it will cost significantly more. Even looking at our staffing, we just have gone through a pay equity study, and we are significantly lower than both Essex and Grant, which we would be joined with, and both those agencies have unions. So the staffing costs, if we were brought into one agency, given those two authorities with us, would significantly increase. So in the end, I do not believe there is in any way an ability to have savings. It will cost significantly more.
So the end result would be ultimately downloaded to the municipality. So we're this year, like just looking at our own increase, we've had an increase of 13% already this year, and I'm looking at the minutes of the previous meeting, and there's about 9.6% for a staff review, wage review, which is everybody's going through that process. But other than that, we would be at a 3% increase at the end of the day. I believe, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. We have actually, out of all the authorities of Southwestern Ontario, in the last 8 years, I believe we've gone over just about 25% increase. We are the lowest of any conservation authority, and we are committed to keep it around the 3% level. Yes. And that also includes, that includes 1% because we are phasing in an asset management plan over 10 years, and at the same time, we're drawing all our reserves down to zero so that it doesn't hit municipalities right away. So over 10 years, one of the 3%, 1% is an increase for assets as we pull down our reserves so that we can do our asset management plan without overburdening municipalities.
Anything further from council? Just one question, Mark. Is there any way of turning the ship around?
Mr.
The gov-
Mayor,
The
I think there
province is moving forward, and I guess that's my question.
Mr. Mayor, I think there is. I see some desperation in some of the leaders of this in the province. They're going to meetings saying, you guys don't realize, how much we're doing for you. Those types of statements. I think that the number of resolutions from municipalities, the number of people that are just sending in letters to the mayors, there have been pickets outside of MPP's offices. Those types of things have had some effect. And I think there is a groundswell. So I believe that I think we will be amalgamated in some way, but I'm hoping that there is enough that we can have a model that includes every municipality still having a say in what a conservation authority does.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Anything further from council or staff? Okay, thank you very much, Mark, and it's good to see you.
Thank you very much. And I'd be there if the roads weren't as where they are right now.
Okay, stay safe.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. And I believe, Tara, you have a resolution
Yes.
at this time.
So moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, whereas the Conservation Authorities Act enables municipalities to establish local conservation authorities. And when municipalities choose to form such authorities, they assume responsibility for governance and funding through the appointment of a board of directors and the provision of an annual levy to cover expenses. And whereas the municipality of Dutton Dunwich established the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority, initially formed in 1961. And whereas local municipalities currently provide over 50% of total conservation authority funding, while the province of Ontario provides approximately 5%. And whereas municipalities have governed their respective conservation authorities for decades, tailoring programs and services to local watershed needs, maintaining accountable service standards, and ensuring fair and predictable costs for ratepayers. And whereas conservation authorities collectively own and manage thousands of acres of land, much of which was donated by local residents and entrusted to conservation authorities as a personal legacy for long-term protection, stewardship, and the public good, with the expectation that such lands would be cared for by locally governed conservation authorities. And whereas Bill 68, Schedule 3, proposes the creation of the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, a crown corporation that would assume governance responsibilities and consolidate Ontario's 36 conservation authorities into 7 regional authorities with municipal cost apportionment yet to be defined. And whereas the province already possesses the authority to establish overarching legislation, regulations, and standards through the Conservation Authorities Act and the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich calls on the Government of Ontario to maintain local, independent, municipally governed, watershed-based conservation authorities to ensure strong local representation in decisions related to municipal levies, community-focused service delivery, and the protection and management of conservation lands. And further that while the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports provincial goals for the consistent permit approval processes, shared services, and digital modernization, and imposing a new top-down agency structure without strong local accountability and governance risk, creating unnecessary cost, red tape, and bureaucracy, thereby undermining efficiency and responsiveness to local community needs. And further that the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports efforts to balance expertise, capacity, and program delivery across the province, and requests that the province work collaboratively with municipalities and local conservation authorities to determine the most effective level of strategic consolidation to achieve both provincial and local objectives. And further, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Ontario Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. That was a mouthful. Item 7 on the agenda, we have a delegation. And it's Sean. Is it Sabo? Sabo? Okay. Come on up.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Yep.
And you were provided with guidelines on a delegation. You understand how this works?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. So you have 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was aware of the 10-minute.
Okay.
Time frame, yes.
Proceed. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, guys. So my name is Sean. You've received my information. You know that I had a clear cut done on my land when I was doing this. Yes. Okay, so I'll just kind of read through my chunk of data here. So I on Saturday, July 19th, I came home from work to find that the trees and the buffer strips and et cetera had been clear cut from my land and grubbed down to dirt. I was not informed that any of this work was to be done on my property, and the work performed was in direct contradiction to what Brent Clutterbuck had described over 4 brown drain meetings spread out over the past decade. So I had face-to-face conversations with him where I expressed concerns about a clear cut occurring, and I was given assurances, each time with citation of the Brown Drain Engineers Report, environmental considerations and mitigation measures. Specifically, it says a clean out of the ditch bottom only has been specified so that the existing bank vegetation is not disturbed. However, where the existing banks are unstable or may become unstable, they are to be resloped and seeded as noted in the plans. No resloping was performed, and no reseeding was done to replace what was grubbed down to dirt. And also at the bottom of the mitigations portion, it says that it is to be noted that both the existing and newly vegetated banks, as well as the existing natural and newly created buffer strips along each side of the ditch, are permanent parts of the Brown Municipal Drain and shall not be disturbed or destroyed. And from the pictures, they aren't cycling, but is that my control or is that yes. Okay, so there's a little bit of the clear cut. When I went over and spoke to Steve Timmermans, the contractor that did the work, he mentioned that he had to chase down the yard managers to get them to move their stuff away from the ditch so that he could do the work. And so they were aware of the work being done on that Saturday for at least a week in advance, and I never received a phone call about that. Steve also did not know what my land was. I have 2.5 lots touching the, sorry for the blurry scroll, touching the Dutton Public Works yard. The maps are at the bottom. So it's an L-shaped property, 2.5 lots. And Steve believed that basically this area, this single lot, was the only area that was my land, and he was not aware that all of this was my land, and the ditch runs approximately through here. So I have an okay amount of land on the other side. He was not aware that it was mine. He was told to clear cut the north side of the slope, which he referred to as their side, meaning the municipality, and the south side of the ditch and the slopes were treated with consideration that I was explained would happen. And he had an explanation for every stump that he took that was within the metrics that were explained to me. So the same consideration was not used on both sides of my property because he was not aware. And there's a picture at the top of a brush pile with a wheelbarrow in front of it. And that brush pile has a cherry tree and a couple of apple trees worth of lumber and logs underneath it that are up on the west half lot on the flat ground outside of the ditch. Those were pulled off my land into the ditch and fed into a wood chipper because the contractor just didn't know that that was my land. He thought I had a single lot, so things were taken and destroyed. And I was basically, I had a conversation with him and it went fine. And on Monday, July 21st, I called the main office here and explained the issues. Said that I'd like to file a bylaw complaint. My information was passed on to Brent Clutterbuck so he could investigate and get back to me. He called me back in the afternoon. I explained the situation, and he thanked me for my patience and offered me a tree line in recompense for what had been destroyed of my property, as well as the environment that had been completely wiped out. And he used his maps to kind of roughly estimate how many trees we would need to run the stretch of my property. He suggested maple. I requested pine or something like that for year-round protection. He said he'd have to check his stocks. It was a conversation about the tree line, not an if. And then we agreed that I would call him in the fall and we would set up a date and time to go meet on my property to figure out where the tree line would go. And then on September 8th, I called and left a message with no return. And September 30th, I called and left a message. October 3rd, I called the main office here and asked if anybody was receiving my messages. And I'm unsure of who answered the phone, who was one of the clerks. And they said that my message had been received and that it was passed to Brent and that I was on his docket to call back and that I would receive a call shortly. And that was on October 3rd. And I didn't receive a call until October 24th. He called and left a message in which he said that he was on my property and he had walked the bank 4 or 5 times but couldn't find any tree stumps up on the flat outside of the ditch, and that everything taken was within normal standards, and that we'd have to have a conversation about the promised tree line another time. So at that previously in summer, also, I requested specifically to him to be kept in the loop because it was a lack of communication that set up the initial trespass when I was not told the work was going to be done. And there was miscommunications around. He was not aware that that was happening in the summer either. So I requested to be kept in the loop, and I was not. So the phone call I received was after municipal office hours from a private number that I couldn't call back. And October 28th, I called and left a message for a call back to discuss the tree line and received no contact. November 4th, I called and left the same message. And then November 6th, Brent returned my calls. He repeated that they only really leave trees up on the flat ground of the ditch, and that the promised tree line that he promised me was based on the description that I gave him of the events in the summer. I re-explained the list of issues and transgressions, and then asked why a clear cut happened when he personally assured me it wouldn't, as well as several civil engineers pointed to the drainage report and said that can't just be done. He said that it would be a selective process as outlined by the environmental mitigations, and he repeated that they didn't take anything out of the ordinary. I also, with the poison or the herbicide being sprayed on the ditch, I asked him if he was aware that that had happened, and said he was not aware that it had happened, and said that it was more. There's a nice shot of the brown dead spot there with green on either side, and there's a little sign there for the notice of herbicide. And also in the bottom right corner of this picture is where my stick pile was with my lumber and logs that got pulled down off my land. And you can see the corner post here. That is the inner corner of the L shape of my property that Steve did not think anything west of that was mine. So Brent Clutterbuck was not aware of the Roundup being sprayed. And I said it's on the buffer strip that I have watched regrow since the summer because it was grubbed down to dirt. And as far as what I've been able to look up, it is not allowed to spray into a buffer strip and down the slope into a municipal drain and into the water. And I asked him if that was a concern of his, and he said it was more of a public works problem. And I asked him if a public works worker sprays poison into a municipal drain, does that become a drainage superintendent problem? And he didn't say anything. 5 or 6 seconds of silence. In that phone call, he told me that the buffer strips and vegetative slopes were not grubbed dirt in the summer since no resloping was done, and insisted as such until I said I had pictures of the damage. He then said that I could send him the pictures and my notes for review, and then he'd get back to me. I expressed my lack of trust in his turnaround time and said that he hadn't taken me seriously or cared to return my calls up to this point. So what could I expect for a turnaround timeline on it? He said that if I didn't want to talk to him, that I could email Tony, which I'm guessing is you. I asked who you were because I wasn't aware of your position. He said that you were his CAO. I asked what that meant, and he said he's Tony. You can email him the problems, and he would not explain to me if you were a sidestep in authority or a step up in authority. I didn't know. I had to go to the website and find that information. And your website is having 404 issues, so which I appreciate. That's fine. So that's kind of the long and short of what has happened. And instead of emailing you or Brent Clutterbuck back, I chose to come here for a delegation and express my issues and request that I be given the tree line that I was promised. And not just for my own factors, I have a couple personal factors in it. My sound barrier has been removed, which is an issue beside a municipal lot. My wind barrier is gone, and I have an old house. I can hear the difference between how hard it's getting hit. I'm getting sandblasted by salt and sand from the yard because there's nothing there to stop it anymore. I have garbage in my yard up in my actual property, which is over here on the right. And I have a picture in here of nice big cardboard something blown into the ditch that would have normally got caught in the buffer strip and the tree line and the bushes on the north side of my property, and I'd have to walk around and clean it. And now this is blowing down into the ditch, and obviously is not the way that should be done. That's what the buffer strips are. Part of what they're engineered for is to stop debris and stuff from blowing into the ditches. My shade is gone, so I have things in my yard that are now getting cooked, like edible bush berries and stuff like their berry bushes that I rely on that are now just getting destroyed because I don't have any shade. And environmentally, the land will now erode faster than ever because all of that erosion protection is gone, and they park a lot of heavy equipment and piles of things on my land that encourages the erosion of land. And I have a picture of another little land parcel here. Very hard to see from a distance, I'm seeing now, but that is the line of my property there in the back. And in this picture, I can see municipal equipment and lumber and whatnot on my land that right up at the edge, which I've never pushed as an issue because I have no interest in getting into a shoving match with any good old boys or anything like that. But that is a factor in sediment coming through the buffer strips as well, which is what they're engineered for. So any fuels, fuels, oils, or if they spill any herbicides or all the salt from their piles, anything going in the ground now has no buffer strip to stop it from going into the drain itself. And I know that that is part of why buffer strips and vegetative slopes are engineered into drains to stop that from seeping into our water and into the environment. The habitat is completely destroyed. There's a lot of trees, a lot of bushes, a lot of brush. And I have a quick little list. I have no wildlife in my yard since the summer. I had an abundance of rabbits, several different types, and this is specifically in the drain, not just in my yard. Several different types of ducks, blue herons, bald eagles, golden eagles, peregrine falcons, which I have pictures of all of them in that area and on my porch, and some of them are protected. 3 different kinds of woodpeckers, muskrats, foxes, all kinds of local birds living and eating in there. I have pictures of foot-long fish in that ditch, which is obviously supportive of the herons. And the mice and moles are still there, but they've moved into my house because they don't have any environment anymore. And coming in, I asked when I brought in the paper to request this delegation, I asked if there was any record of my initial complaint that I had called in, and there was not. So calling into this office and speaking to Brent Clutterbuck on several different occasions, no documentation was ever made. It's on me to fill out a form, either digitally or physically, or there's not any record of it of any kind until I come here and do this. And I find that to be a little bit of an issue. There should be some kind of paperwork in the background, even if it's just so-and-so called with a complaint about this. Because other than that, there's no record. And there's also I was not provided with any record of a permit to spray the Roundup MSO on the ditch, because I requested that as well when I came in and dropped, and that was not given to me. So I'm unsure if there was any record or any request for a permit to do that work. Because I understand that there are circumstances where that can be done, but it was just grass. There wasn't a vision, like it wasn't blocking any vision. There wasn't any work that needed to get done or any of the factors that I've read. It was just done. And so that's kind of the long and short of it.
Okay, thank you for that. And all your pictures, helpful.
Thank you.
Staff will get back to you, okay? And they will do that. There are some questions that council has and staff will address all of them.
Absolutely.
And that's as far as I can go at this point.
Okay, that's fine. And I do have about 100+ pictures, and a lot of them are just of the destruction. I whittled it down to about 20. Didn't want to waste as much time, and I'm more than open to any calls and questions in the future to get this remedied.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you for coming in.
thank you very much for your time.
On. Thanks, Tara. To our planning. And first on the docket is zoning bylaw amendment. But Tara, if you would take us there, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 04/25 filed by James Murray for property located at 32439 Walnut Line opens at 5:41 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public meeting as required by Section 34 of the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject property from large lot agricultural A3 zone to special agricultural A2 zone and site-specific exemption special rural residential RS-33 zone. The subject property is locally known as 32439 Walnut Line in the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. Does any member of council have any disclosure of interest in these proposals? Seeing none. Tara, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting?
A sign was posted on the subject property by the November 20th, 2025 deadline, and notices were mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property before the November 20th, 2025 deadline.
Okay, thank you. And now I would introduce, is Diana or Matt going to speak to this? Oh,
Wait.
That's me.
okay. There he is.
Good evening,
Hey,
Mr. Mayor. Members of council. So this presentation will be fairly brief, but as the chair mentioned, the site is located at 32439 Walnut Line. It has a total lot area of approximately 44 hectares and contains a single detached dwelling as well as an accessory structure and woodlands and other natural features. This zoning amendment application is required following a recent provisional approval for severance of the existing dwelling, which is surplus to a farm operation, where one of the conditions of that approval required the typical rezoning of first the retained agricultural parcel, which measures 42.6 hectares, in order to prohibit any future residential uses on that parcel. So to accomplish this, the retained parcel would be rezoned from the existing large lot agricultural A3 zone to the special agricultural A2 zone. The severed parcel, which measures 1.594 hectares, would be rezoned to a site-specific special rural residential RS zone, where the site-specific exemption relates to permitting that lot area of 1.594 hectares. Typically, these lots are limited in size to a maximum of 0.8 hectares. The size 0.8 hectares is generally established to permit the proper functioning of a residential use, in particular with respect to accommodating private services on the lot, while limiting the amount of land that would potentially be taken away from its primary intended use of agricultural land. In this instance, the Land Division Committee approved the severance in order to reflect the conditions on the property where the dwelling is set far back from the roadway, the encompassing accessory structure, and effectively to match the existing fence line that delineates the existing residential area on the property, where these lands have already been disturbed and taken out of use for agricultural purposes. So with this in mind, and as consistency with the provincial planning statement and conformance with both the county and local official plans were confirmed through the consent process, staff are supportive of the requested amendments and recommend approval of the application. I can answer any questions that you may have on the matter. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, John, for that report. Tara, have you received any comments from staff?
Yes, as summarized in the planner's report.
Did you receive any written submissions on this application?
Yes, as summarized in the planner's report.
Okay. Before I open the floor to questions from the public, please be advised that if any person from the public wishes to receive further information on the action of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment, please ensure that they leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. Is there any questions or comments from the public? Anybody joining us virtually? I'm hearing none. Now I'll turn the floor over to council. Any questions from council on this report? No? Okay. If there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment should leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. If you're not the applicant, you should request a copy of the decision since it may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant or another member of the public. The last day to appeal is January 5, 2026. Okay. Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drouillard, the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 04/25 32439 Walnut Line, Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, James Murray, dated December 10th, 2025 for information, and that Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich approves zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 04/25 for property located at 32439 Walnut Line from large lot agricultural zone to special agricultural zone and site-specific exemption, special rural residential RS-33 zone in accordance with the site-specific bylaw 2025-54. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 04/25 filed by James Murray for property located at 32439 Walnut Line closes at 5:47 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, this public meeting is now concluded. Very much. Next, under planning, we have the servicing allocation bylaw and policy, and we have with us Matt and Diana, county planning. We're so lucky to have so many planners with us tonight, virtually and in person. So I'll just turn it over to the two of you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks very much. Through the mayor to the rest of council. So on March 12th of this year, Dutton Dunwich Council passed an interim control bylaw over all wastewater service lands in Dutton Dunwich, effectively putting a hold on all development related activities until the municipality was able to conduct a wastewater servicing study to gain a better understanding of the wastewater treatment plant servicing capacity and to develop a strategy for implementing improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. To ensure that no additional wastewater is added to the wastewater treatment system, in place of the interim control bylaw, the attached holding bylaw would be placed on the entirety of the lands serviced by the Dutton Dunwich wastewater treatment facility. The holding bylaw is structured in a way that would prevent all forms of development that would add wastewater to the system until the wastewater treatment facility upgrades are completed and operational. Additionally, attached to this report, a servicing allocation policy will guide how development can proceed through the prioritization of servicing allocation. An application must first have approved for servicing allocation or be exempt from the servicing allocation to proceed with lifting the holding. A draft holding bylaw was presented to Dutton Council on September 24th. A 30-day public commenting period has now passed. Now, in relation to the servicing allocation policy, the municipality is currently undergoing upgrades to the municipal wastewater treatment facility and network. Once those upgrades have been completed, a limited amount of wastewater servicing will become available. In order to properly manage a municipality's future uncommitted reserve capacity of its wastewater treatment system, protect the health and safety of the public, and in order to ensure that servicing capacity can be provided to those projects that provide the greatest economic benefit to the municipality, and that they are the ones most likely to proceed in the immediate future, staff recommend the implementation of a service capacity allocation policy. In relation to removing the holding, so after the holding's been put on, this is the process for removing it. In an effort to expedite the future removal of a holding from the property, staff are also recommending that the municipality initiate a housekeeping amendment to the Dutton Dunwich official plan to create a policy that would enable council to delegate approval authority to staff to approve minor zoning bylaw amendments for the removal of holdings. This would reduce the time that's required to remove the holding once servicing is available, servicing allocations have been granted to the subject proposal, and all conditions related to the holding removal have been satisfied. In this way, time would be saved by not having to prepare a staff report and presentation to council to remove the holding. And it's also recommended that the fee associated with the holding removals be reduced to lessen the financial requirements to the applicant. So staff's recommendation is before you. In a nutshell, what we're doing is we're recommending that you replace the ICBL with a holding. There's obviously some advantages to doing this, and there's some limitations to what the ICBL can do. So one of the advantages of the holding is that it gives council, it gives developers, it gives everybody time to consider development, that it's gotten the servicing allocation. And the biggest thing I think that should be noted is the upgrades you are undergoing right now, they are an interim way to a final solution. They aren't the final solution. The final solution is having a whole new plant. The upgrades right now will give you a certain amount of allocation. It won't give you allocation forever. It may only give you an allocation for units for commercial development, residential development, maybe only for a year or two. But then after that allocation is gone, you'll have no mechanism unless the holding provision is put in place. At some point, the ICBL will expire. And once the ICBL expires, unless there's a holding in place, there won't be a mechanism to prevent development. So it's something to consider for the long-term future of development here in Dutton Dunwich. I'll leave it with that. If there's any questions in relation to the holding or in relation to the servicing allocation policy, I'm here to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you, Matt, for that report. Quite thorough. And I know there will be questions, so Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Okay, I'll go first. I don't have a problem with the holding provision bylaw the way it's drawn up, with one exception. And I think that is the the properties that we already approved for development. I really think that it would be, I know it's not a big deal to take off the holding provision, but these we've already put enough obstacles in these guys' way where we've already approved the plan of subdivision or their site plans, and I think it wouldn't be that difficult for us to go through those and take them out of the holding provision before we adopt the bylaw.
Anything further from council? Correct me if I'm wrong, is there not language in that deals with that specific thing? Anything prior to implementation of this?
So the way it's worded through the mayor, the way it's worded now, everything gets the holding provision put in place, but those developments are exempted from the servicing allocation. So they wouldn't need to seek approval for servicing allocation. They would be granted servicing allocation once it becomes available, once those upgrades are finalized and implemented. They would still need to remove the holding. The holding's really just there as a sort of a last-ditch effort to prevent anything from happening. If the holding's not there and the ICBL is not there, it's hard to stop development.
Okay, I understand. Counselor Goulart.
Yeah, I concur with Deputy Mayor Loveland. I have concerns about the registered plans of subdivision. They've already had the holdups, and now we're at a space where we're going to ask them to it's going to be additional costs to them to remove that holding, and I just really I strongly cannot see my way around asking them for additional monies to move along because they're already approved.
Mhm.
So that is my major concern, is asking for additional monies to remove that holding.
Through the mayor to the rest of council, these, the planning fees that are associated with the removal of the holding, these are council's fees, and these are municipalities' fees. From what my understanding is, the council has the ability to waive those fees if that's a request from that applicant. So it would be safer to put the holding on and for the applicant to request that those fees be waived and for you to waive those fees than to just not to put the holding on. But it's completely up to you how you would like to deal with it.
Just one more question to that, because you are our contracted service. Would that remove the fees that we would then in turn pay to the county?
Unfortunately, through the mayor, the piper does need to be paid. So yeah. However, I will say if we do go through the process of updating your official plan and we put that the delegated authority in place, it really minimizes the amount of work we need to do for it. There's no report that's required. There's no presentation. We don't have to come here. It really lessens the amount of time that we spend. All we're really going to do is we're going to look at, do they have servicing allocation? The answer for those ones in particular will be yes, because they're granted it automatically through this process. And is the water treatment, are the upgrades done? Are they implemented? Are they operational? The answer will be yes, hopefully sooner than later. If those two things are already in place, our job becomes quite easy. It becomes an email over to your CBO to say, we're good to go from a planning perspective. And it's a pretty simple process. I really don't see a whole lot of time at all for us.
Okay, anything further? Go ahead.
I guess my other concern is a statement Matt just made, and I know we don't want to get the cart before the horse either, but I think, I guess I would be a little more receptive if we were able to allow some of this development to go ahead once we've already let the tender, and once we have a clear idea as to when the work is going to be completed, because we all realize that if I come in and get a permit for a new house, it's going to be at least 6 months before that house is occupied, probably closer to 9. So I want to be able to, I think, get some of these guys that we've held up, the developers, to get some houses going and clear up so that they can proceed. We've had a lot of money tied up for a year on them, and I know we've talked about that in the past with the county, that we would look at plans of subdivision once the tenders were awarded. So I really feel we should be a little more lenient for these, especially those developments that have been held up and that were approved.
Okay. Does council have enough information with the planner's report? It's quite thorough. We have to deal with the ICBL. We have to do something with that by March. And if I can offer my opinion, this is progress. We're progressing through the ICBL. Nobody wants an ICBL. And this certainly is the next step. With the work we're getting done and your concerns, I think we can make a lot of people happy, including the developers. Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, just through the mayor, one more thing to add. That's probably worth noting for the rest of council to understand. Currently, the way the ICBL is worded is it doesn't allow anyone to come in with any kind of planning application. The only way they can move forward with anything is they have to come to council to seek an exemption. That's not the way it would work with the holding provision. The holding provision does allow applicants to come in with certain kinds of planning applications. So the holding will be maintained, but we can look at things like minor variances or zoning bylaw amendments. We can make all those changes to land use planning, and we can take in site plan applications. We can get those to the door of being approved. We just can't get them across the line until the holding's been lifted or they've been granted servicing allocation. So we can do quite a bit of work in the background while the holding is there to protect the municipality. The ICBL doesn't allow that today. The holding does. So there are some pros to having the holding in place instead of the ICBL.
Go ahead.
Another question for Matt. You didn't mention draft subdivision of plan approval. Is that something that could be looked at prior to removing the holding provision? Of course, it would be a condition that you couldn't get final approval until that was done. Some of these subdivisions are 3 and 4 years getting some of the approvals in place. So again, I just want the developers to realize that we're trying to make this as simple for them as we could and as time efficient.
Through the mayor, so it's a good question. The subdivision process is a much longer process. They generally consume a lot more of your servicing allocation. This council would need to be confident that's where they want to put their eggs, because you once the upgrades are done, you will only have so much capacity that's going to be created. You will have a lot of folks coming in asking for that capacity. So the servicing allocation policy does lay out a framework for how to prioritize that. Subdivisions will find it harder to get that allocation because the way the wording is right now, it favors things like commercial development, industrial development, and infill development, intensification, the things you want in a town. That's the way it favors that kind of development. It's not to say that subdivisions can't get through that policy. They can, but it favors those other kinds of developments. So it's just something council will need to consider. If you would rather see your development go into subdivisions, then that can be something that we prioritize moving forward. We can take in those applications. That generally speaking, the pre-consultation process, getting an application together like that in itself can take 6 months. So my hope is that by the time we see some of those applications, the upgrades are done, we're already in the process of considering lifting the holding in some cases. And maybe at that point, those developers can come in to request that those new subdivisions be considered for that allocation. So yeah, it's something that the council will need to consider.
Okay. We need to understand this, so I'm going to give it all the time required here. Did Corey join us virtually? He thought he might be able to. So, okay. If he did, Are we finished with this thing? No more questions of Matt? Okay. Thank you for your report. And are we going to deal with it? Okay, go ahead.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Elgin County Planning Services titled Holding Bylaw and Servicing Allocation Policy, dated November 26, 2025 for information, and that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich approves the holding bylaw for the entire wastewater serviced area of Dutton Dunwich, and that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich approves the servicing allocation policy, and that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich directs planning staff to initiate an official plan housekeeping amendment to create a policy that would grant staff delegated authority to approve minor zoning bylaw amendments, such as the removal of a holding bylaw. All in favor? All those opposed? So,
What do we do now, Clerk Tara?
in a tie, it's defeated.
Pardon?
In a tie, it's defeated.
Yeah, so through the mayor to council, so you currently still have an ICBL that's in place until March. There is an option to extend the ICBL for a year. Council should be aware that the extension of an ICBL, unlike putting it in place, the extension is appealable. So something that may happen. The other thing to consider is the ICBL is only, we can only extend it for a year. After a year, we can't extend it anymore. And then you will have no planning tools in place to help prevent development. As I mentioned, you will grant yourselves some servicing allocation as part of these upgrades, but it's not a forever solution. It is a temporary solution until you have a major upgrade or a major replacement. So this council may want to consider that future planning tool.
Okay, thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
I have a comment, maybe if.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
I would support it again if we make the changes that we talked about with those proposed developments. And I think we don't need to hurry for a bit. We're really not even sure what, I mean, we've already done the tender and that's been awarded, but we really haven't heard from the ministry how much allocation we've even got yet. We've heard it could be 40% or it could be 30%. We don't know. And hopefully that's going to happen before long. Maybe we need to just put this on the table until we get some more of that information.
Okay, I'm gonna allow it because it's important. Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, hence, sorry for the late response. I'm on the same page. I'm for the motion, but if we need more time, then I'm in favor of taking that additional time, but I think it will have to come back to the table. We have limited capacity, and where we allocate the capacity is risky because we're looking at years of working on a new wastewater facility. It's not going to be a quick fix, and as Matt said, when we lift the holdings, we could have the doors coming down with development, and that's the situation we're in. So I think another month or so of trying to work this out is important for us as a municipality and council. So I'm on Ken Loveland's, Deputy Mayor Loveland's page that if we need a bit more time, we need more time to work this out. So.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question of the clerk. We've defeated this one. How do we bring it back down the road?
You could have a council member make a motion. No, you're past that point, but you could make a motion to bring it back at another time with different direction.
Okay. I think we'll probably be talking before March. Okay. Yeah, I know you will be, but keep in mind, we do have a deadline here. Council needs to understand that. Okay. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you.
We need a motion
We need a motion
For,
to bring it back.
to bring it back.
well, we can do that down the road, or do you want to do it now?
Which is cleaner, Tara? Sorry, which is cleaner, Tara, which would make the most sense in your world?
If we can do it at the next meeting, I can come up with better wording than I can come up on the fly right now.
Okay, that's perfect. Just so that we can revisit. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on. We have a number of correspondence items. And the first one is from Hugh McGinnis. Everyone has read it. Thanks, Matt. Any comments? Go ahead with resolution, please, Tara.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that correspondence item 9A from Hugh McGinnis be received and filed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, next one is Municipality of Calvin, strengthening self-defense protections and addressing rising home invasions in Ontario. Any comments from council? Speak to that one. Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drewler, that the council, the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the municipality of Calvin supporting the province of Ontario's call for strengthened homeowner self-defense protections, including the adoption of clear and robust castle law type provisions to ensure that law-abiding residents can protect themselves without fear of unjust prosecution, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the municipality of Calvin. All in favor? And that's carried.
And sure I'm in order here. The City of Brantford Professional Activity Day on Municipal Election Day. Anyone want to comment on that one? Okay, Tara, please.
Moved by Drewlard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the city of Brantford requesting the Premier of Ontario in consultation with the Ministry of Education, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and school board associations to consider directing all publicly funded school boards in Ontario to schedule a professional activity PA day on the date of the municipal election in each election year, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the city of Brantford. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and there's one more. Elgin OPP Detachment Board, they're requesting some assistance. Everybody has read that. Any comments on that? And I think I would turn that to staff. I would love to help them, but I don't think we have the resources for it. Tony, if you care to comment on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, we have looked at some of the requirements, and as you mentioned, currently we are at a capacity when it comes to providing financial assistance. While this seems very good in our opinion, it would come at a disadvantage, and other services that we're currently providing would be affected at this point, this time.
Okay. Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that correspondence item 10D from the Elgin OPP Detachment Board be received and filed. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, our consent agenda, let's take the first four. Does anyone wish to speak to any one of those? Town of Godrich, Watson and Associates, County of Northumberland, and Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. No comments? The committee reports. We have the Horvat Community Center, Lower Thames Valley Conservation again, and the Tri-County Water Board. Anyone wish to speak to any of those? Okay. And we have the staff reports. They're in front of you. Anyone wish to comment or speak to those? Seeing nothing. Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, on to the treasurer's report. James, you're on the hot seat. First one is your property tax billing and collection policy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this policy deals with the property tax billing and collections. We're looking to make one change in it only. Basically, the change would be to, right now, ratepayers on a monthly pre-authorized payment plan are paying January to November. What we're looking to do is change it to a 12-month, January to December. It's basically just, it's not going to mean any more to the taxpayer. It'll help them spread out payments over one more month. It'll be more consistent cash flow for the municipality too for the 12 months of the year.
Okay. Sounds good to me, and everybody's monthly tax bill is going to go down now.
Well, payment wise.
Any other comments from council on that? Nothing? Okay, Tara, please.
Moved by Drillard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the acting treasurer titled Property Tax Billing and Collection Policy dated December 10th, 2025 for information, and that council approves the updated property tax billing and collection policy F03007. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to deal with the 2026 draft. And I want to say that loud and clear to everyone listening. This is a draft capital and operating budget.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I put together a couple of presentations. First, before my report, we'll start with the 2026 draft capital budget. Advance it one, yeah. So first slide is to do with the capital budget scope. It's just details what is included in the capital budget. You know, the threshold of a capital expenditure. Next slide. Next slide is for capital budget objectives. It talks about the variety of projects that are contained over several and support several objectives such as asset management renewal, our asset management growth, risk mitigation, and then it talks about how we rank our projects as critical, mandatory, or optional. Next slide. This just talks about the capital budget process that's detailed in the operating and capital budgeting policy. As you can see, we're pretty much right on schedule. We're a little bit behind, but next slide. And then this is the spreadsheet outlining the capital projects that were brought to the budget committee. So you have them detailed there: medical center, public works, parks and rec, water and sewer. So you can see our number is quite high, but that's a lot of it has to do with our wastewater treatment plant upgrades. You'll notice that there's brackets around the roads reserve and the recreation reserve. Those projects won't be completed in 2026. What we're proposing is that we start putting money away in a reserve to complete those projects in maybe 2 to 5 years. I didn't want to take them off the sheet, okay, but wanted to highlight them so that, you know, we're not going to do them, but we are going to start putting away money for them. You'll see that when we go through the budget.
Okay.
Then the next slide. This just talks about where the finance sources for the capital budget are coming from. The way I've got it right now is assuming we get the health and safety water grant. So the biggest amount of funding is coming from our grants, our OSIF grant and this health and safety water stream. You have your gas tax, development charges, what will be put on the tax levy and what it equates to, as far as a percentage increase. User fee funded debt and then reserves. The user fee funded debt is for the water and wastewater. Then next slide. So this just talks about each project. But the side entrance for the medical center, we're looking at replacing the door. The frame is pretty much rotted out. It needs a new door.
You said on the side of the building.
Yeah, we're directly going into the doctor's clinic. So we'll take that from reserves, and we have the reserve money set aside for that. So next slide. Next slide talks about operations. You can see that funding sources there, projects listed, Thompson Line, new street lights for the going out towards the McDonald's and Foodland, engineering and salt shed, and truck purchase and drain camera purchase. Next slide. This is our parks and facilities funding requests. All of this funding source would be directly on the tax levy for this. You can see the projects listed there.
Can
Next
I ask one
Yep.
question here?
Yes.
Just more information on the pool resurfacing. Is that the pool deck or is that in the pool?
Both.
Both?
Yeah, so the pool deck and wrapping down in, and then further down in, there's some pieces that are chipping away. So
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Further, Mayor Hens, it reaches life cycle. It's past 10 years. Back to reaches life cycle probably 4 years ago. So that's got to come off, and then there's a tile going to be wrapped around it. It's actually unsafe for swimmers now. So that was I believe 100,000 almost. Yeah.
about 100, almost 100,000.
Yeah.
To do that job. When they opened the pool this past summer, the health unit, the inspector said that they would pass it, but that would need to be fixed before between now and the next time we open the pool. So and the ambulance bay roof, that's the flat roof that we're looking at doing some repairs on. And the next slide is our water capital projects. There's basically 3 of them. As listed there, they would all come out of the water fees and out of the water reserves that we're starting to put away in the 2026 budget. Next slide. This is our wastewater. Of course, we all know the big project that's there. Plus, we're looking at replacing the wastewater operator's truck.
I've lost track. How many trucks are we replacing here in this capital budget?
Yeah.
Three?
Three.
Three? Go ahead.
And I guess that brings in my question. I know that trucks get old, but I know it's not a huge amount of money, but if we could even extend the sewage plant operator's truck, I don't know how many miles on it, but I'd just like to put as much money as we can towards improving the plant rather than get another piece of shiny, nice steel to drive around. But maybe it needs it. I don't know.
On the committee, did you had departments in front of you?
Yes, we did, and we had quite a discussion about vehicles with staff and ways that we could move them around and try to allocate them to different locations. And we concluded that we can't we just keep putting them off, and it just becomes a problem again next year. So we did have a hard look at it, and we felt that we would at least look at it in the first round. We didn't obviously see all the final numbers come together, but we wanted to look at it in the first round and see what it looked like. So, yeah.
Through your worship, what we can do when the budget report comes back, we can provide you some more detail on the specific vehicles, number of kilometers, years, and that information. And if there's any work that would that's possibly done. I know we have one vehicle right now. It's actually off the road, cannot be safetied. So we can provide you with more detail when the budget comes back.
And that truck that's off the road, it was approved at 105,000 in the 2025 capital budget. I know Murray and Ryan looked for different types of vehicles to try and fit within that price range, could not find it. So this budget is giving them another 45,000 to work with on top of that 105,000.
Okay, I know the budget's tight, but I don't like our staff driving around old rust buckets either. We may be poor, but we don't need to look that poor, so.
And I know with the One Parks truck, it's not fit to be able to pull a trailer anymore.
Yeah.
Too, it wouldn't pass the safety to be able to pull the trailer.
Yeah, so we have a real problem. Okay, good stuff.
And the last slide on the capital budget just talks about the increased operating costs and details that approximately about 61, almost 62,000 is a 1% municipal tax levy increase.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Grenville.
Just further to that conversation on the vehicles, we had staff look into how we should purchase them, whether we could lease or whether we could take another method of finance rather than put it on the debt. So I know Tony was looking at options for us. So there's a lot of options we have in front of us yet. So we're trying to figure that part out yet. So, yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a new vehicle.
We did explore that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we asked staff to look at that and to provide us with other options. So, yep.
Okay. Anything more?
Yeah, so we'll carry on with my presentation for the operating budget. Okay, so the first slide, it just talks about the strategic plan that the municipality has in place. Second slide is just my message to council, just to let you know that the 2026 budget, it does represent where we're at financially. It's the reality of it. We have legislative responsibilities that we must fulfill. We must deal with the same economic pressures that your normal household has as well. So that's why we are presenting this draft 2026 budget with a 9.8% increase. Slide. This just talks about Dutton Dunwich at a glance, our population.
Excuse me, could I just intervene for one?
Sorry.
If we go back to the other slide and we had discussions with both the asset management plan is essential. We have to have that in motion January 1st. And the impact on our municipality is huge. There's a cost attached to that. There's a mandatory building of reserve funds, and the impact on this budget, we can't overlook that in this budget. The impact, we've had reserves in the past, but no money. Now we're putting actual money to work. So Tony has taken that step. We have funds set aside for cash reserves. So we've taken the initial step of taking that approach. So.
Through you, Your Worship, to add to the councillor's comments, that asset management plan is very important because it also ties to other provincial and federal funding. That's one thing that they do look for, and as part of our application process, they require us to demonstrate that we are working and investing in that asset management plan. So that is something that is going to be brought back in the new year with our strategy, our approach, and how we're going to ensure that we're in compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this slide here just talks about Dutton Dunwich at a glance, our population, and the fact that we employ almost 50 employees, full-time, part-time, seasonal. I know we have over 20 firefighters. Next slide. This is just a listing of our municipal services that tax dollars go towards and that we provide. Next slide. This would be our debt. So the total at the bottom is our total debt as of January 1, 2026. On January 1, 2025, we started with 4.592 million in debt. Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, just to add a couple of comments to James' slide on the debt. We have been having meetings with our lenders with regards to these debts. We're looking at taking some advantages of funds that we do have. We have some requirements that we can make prepayments of 10%, so we're trying to be aggressive in some of this debt reduction. And you'll see this theme going through, which brings us why we are have a draft 9.8% budget increase, and a portion, in addition to the regular debt servicing, is going to include additional monies put aside toward reducing that debt. And James is going to go through what that impact has in future years.
Thank you.
So this slide talks about debt and about there's an annual repayment limit. I won't get into too much detail about that. It's a limit that's determined when we file our information return with the province. Currently, our debt payments are 681,300, and that's about 37% of our 2025 ARL. Next slide. Obviously, the quickest way to reduce debt is to take advantage of any prepayment options. That's what we're contacted our TD, who we have most of our loans with, and they're looking into seeing what our prepayment options are for the future.
Can we just go back one slide, please? Randy, can you take us back? Just so we all understand the situation we're in.
Through your mayorance, just the clarity is that everyone needs to understand, and the general public, is that typically the province has allowed, Tony, you could probably answer this better than I could, but this is the conversation we had in our committee meeting, is that typically maximum amount is 25% of your annual revenue, which is we're at that limit. Most municipalities operate somewhere between 18 and 20%. So you can't be out of debt. It's virtually impossible, unless there are some municipalities that actually have no debt. But we want to get down. I think our goal is to get us more into that range where it's more comfortable, and we don't want to be at that max limit. So I think that if that clarifies that.
Yeah,
state
kind of hand
I think
going forward.
Our ratepayers need to understand this. This just didn't happen overnight. This is where the goal that we have as as a committee to try to get us to that place over time.
Okay,
so
go ahead, Mayor.
I just want to make a comment on something Henry said, and I don't think we're at a debt repayment limit yet. I mean, we have a balance left of 18 million that we could borrow. That would bring us up to the limit. So that's with the 681 that we owe. So I didn't want. I know we probably owe more money than we'd like to owe, but we're not at the limit yet.
Through Your Worship, we are having and continuing to having discussions with the province on that. We felt that it was very important that we explain our current situation to them, so they're aware of the debt limits that we currently have, and also to, more importantly, that any future debt that's coming, i.e. the wastewater treatment plant. So we are being transparent and open with the province. We encourage them to also, if they have any further suggestions, some of the initial comments that we did receive, that they were very happy with the approach that we're taking with regards to our servicing our debt, and also taking a proactive and aggressive approach. They're also suggesting, and one thing that we would like to bring back is a debt policy back to council in the new year. Basically, it provides some guidelines, guardrails with regards to the debt. They like that suggestion, and they thought that was good, prudent to bring things forward. So we're continuing our discussions, and as we are able to determine what our limit is as it relates to our tender, that information then will be brought back to council.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Carry on, James.
So you'll see that I've wrote out 3 scenarios that have been designed to show the effects of having a yearly prepayment or staying status quo. So, option 1 is obviously just keep making regular monthly payments. Scenario 2 is prepaying 175,000, and option 3 is to do 250,000, and then it's shows the graph on the next page of when the debt would be paid off, depending on which scenario you take. So you're looking at, about 5 to 10 years quicker if you can, the more you can pay off. And now that's also assuming that we take on no extra debt, which is not possible, but that's the current debt.
Go ahead.
Through your worship, comments that were made today with regards to some municipalities have zero debt, some have very little debt. There's a balance that you need to achieve. That balance allows you to ensure that you have a servicing debt that is manageable, but also you're also investing in your reserves and infrastructure to feed your asset management plan. So I think once you're able to get a handle on your debt, then you can say, okay, those additional dollars, maybe we could look at, putting more into reserves, planning for a rainy day, making sure that, when we don't have any surprises, putting money aside for fleet replacement, so something that is going to be planned for. So in 3 to 5 years, when these things, as we see them coming due, the money is already going to be there. So right now, it's a balancing act, trying to get the debt under control. Once you get that under control, then finding that balance. And that's where we'll be bringing back reports regarding here's where we're at. So again, it's a matter of how aggressive you would like to be at this stage. And that always comes down to council's direction and approval.
Go ahead, James.
Okay, next slide. So this just talks about how we, under the Municipal Act, municipalities must adopt a balanced budget, and how the operating budget provides the resources to deliver the programs and services, meet the needs of the community. Next slide. This slide talks about how the municipality is governed by provincial legislation and different acts and regulations as they're listed there.
Through you, your mayor, if I can just pause at that slide there. If you look at each and one of those requirements, whether you're a large municipality, medium or small municipality like Dutton Dunwich, there are requirements that we have to ensure that we're complying with. So when you look at some of the pressures that we have, this is just some of the acts and plans that we have to ensure that we're in compliance with. So those are also additional added pressures that we do. So I just wanted to kind of focus on that page, that slide. Thank you.
And the next slide. So this brings us into the numbers section of it. So you can see on the left-hand side, it details that we're looking to raise through taxes $7,148,060, which results in the 9.8% tax rate increase. And then it shows on $100,000 worth of assessment what the municipal portion of the taxes were in 2025, what it is with the rate increase on residential and farmland. And on the right, it details each department's overall effect on the budget, dollars and percentage wise.
One quick question on our solid waste. With all the changes coming, do we have an accurate number on, for budgeting purposes, on what those costs are going to be?
As far as garbage collection and
Yes.
recycling,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Further to protective services, if you're, when you're going through your operations, you'll note that policing services is increased by $200,000 compared to, of course, we got the funding back last year, so that's irrelevant. We're still paying for, we're making up that $100,000. So from 495 to $600,000 is quite a large percentage on our municipal budget. So
It was only 11%.
Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So this just goes through the different departments under the administration. As your tax, which covers subs and write-offs. Now, you'll notice that there is quite a change in the 2026 budget. That is due to the landfill site that we own. The assessment is split between commercial and the H tax class, which is the landfill. So under that, that's one of the highest tax rates due to the tax ratio also being high. Now, the County of Elgin, they passed a bylaw a number of years ago that allows us to write off that portion so that we do not have to pass it on to our ratepayers because landfill is not an exempt property. So the way, when I was looking into things, I've seen in the past that the weighted assessment had not been included in the overall budget calculations due to the fact that it was subsequently written off. It's not revenue that we should realize, but so I did a calculation including it this year, and it works out to keeping the residential tax rate 0.5% lower with it in. So that's why you'll notice that big number change there. So this year I'd like to include the weighted assessment in order to keep that residential tax rate as low as possible. Because if I didn't, we'd be coming in at double-digit increase, 10.3% instead of 9.8%. Either way, we're going to write it off, whether you don't realize it or whether you realize the revenue and then write it off. But it does make a 0.5% difference.
Okay. How does the county deal with that assessment? Do they not, are we exempt from the county portion of taxes on the landfill?
On the H class portion, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, we can write off the county and the education.
Yeah, okay, thank you. One other question on council, and it's for the public to see. We're going from well, that's year to date. Is there anything included in the council number other than wages? What else is thrown into that?
Election costs.
Okay,
So because of our reserve situation, we've included 15,000.
okay, and that'll fall under that line.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
As you can see, Service Ontario's dropped to 0 because we no longer have that service. There's no other questions on that. We'll do next slide.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know whether you remember this number, but the library debt, are we still carrying library debt? Small portion, I believe.
Yeah, it's not. Yes, there's still at the beginning of 2026, the debt outstanding on the library will be about 17,600 approximately. So it's getting down there.
It's getting down there and we are getting revenue from the county.
Yes.
Okay, good deal.
This next tab goes through fire policing, conservation authority, bylaw, building department, and emergency management coordination. Overall on that, we're looking at an 8% increase on everything there when combined. As Henry mentioned, our policing costs are projected at 11% increase. Any questions on that one?
We don't have any wiggle room on them.
No,
No.
unfortunately. Okay, next slide. This is our public works. We divide our public works into municipal, county, and vehicles and equipment. As you can see, it's went up by just over 100,000. A lot of that is to do with the tax funded capital projects and the reserve amounts we built in. If we were to take that out, we'd actually be looking at a decrease to public works. So they've done a very good job of budgeting accordingly for 2026. Next slide. This is our waste, health, and cemetery services. So our waste and landfill, it's gone down. Basically, as of January 1, 2026, we will no longer be paying for curbside recycling. That'll become a producer-based pay model. Our medical center is going down due to the closure of the lab. And we've experienced quite a significant savings with our cemeteries. A lot of that is to do with the contracting out of the lawn care. We've really cut down on staff wages and stuff that go into that. So
It's also going to save on lawnmowers.
yes. Next slide. And this is our planning, economic development, heritage, and drainage. When you look at the very bottom total, you'll see that it's gone down 3%. And next slide. Did we miss a slide? That's all right. I think it did. My apologies. Recreation. We missed facilities and recreation. It has gone up significantly. This is due to capital items and money we want to put into reserves in this budget. Like I say, the big ticket item is the pool at about $93,000. Due to our reserve situation, we can no longer say that we can use reserves to fund the expense. It all has to be on tax dollars.
Comments on this one?
I did the same sort of calculation I did with Public Works. You take out the tax funded capital projects and the reserve amounts, their budget would have only went up about 52,000. So a lot of this is driven by those capital and reserve amounts.
Just a comment on the pool. It's been there over 50 years, I think. I believe 72 maybe it was built. Something like that. What's the lifespan of that thing? Do we know that?
It's past typical 40 years.
Yeah.
So the conversation in the committee was, well, obvious. The conversation is eliminate it. With our general public like that, is it still a community? Is it still something that the community really wants? we felt it was. I'm not sure any of us would want to take that one on. I don't know for sure, but that's the consensus that was in our committee. It is, we did discuss that pool cost us, on average between 40 and 100,000 a year in maintenance. So our consensus was, let's start building reserves to offset. So this year we'll feel some pain. Next year, hopefully we don't have to do anything. Last year, we put a $38,000 heater in it. We looked at the usage of who's actually using it, and it was well attended this year for swimming lessons, well run, everything, the swim teams, everything was working really well. So we felt that was a positive for the whole thing. But we need to put reserves away so that we're not having to make this a capital expenditure every single year. So maybe we won't have anything next year. Everything else seems to be fine, but we just don't know. So
Not so long ago, we spent a lot of money on the deck and we did the tiles around the top. So I just look at that, you get
that, saying that, sorry, I'm sorry about that. Saying that, that's what we're repairing again.
Yeah.
So that was 10 years ago. So that's,
I've been here that long? Yeah, it's not that long ago.
No, that's not that long ago because I was sitting on council and I'm only my 7th year. 8th.
My point is, any other asset we got, and I can look at my farm business, you get to a point where you're spending so many dollars on an asset. Either you buy a new one or something happens. Are we at that point is my question. How much money do you keep throwing into an old asset? So I'm just throwing that out there because I think we're in a situation where we got to look at everything. Go ahead, Councillor Drewler.
Oh, in saying that, I think maybe a plan going forward, maybe reaching out and working with perhaps some of the community organizations and recreation and coming up with a plan going forward for fundraising. That is a very common approach to recreation. And I think we're missing that boat all the time.
Good point. And you look at what's happened with the ball diamonds, what they managed to pull off. So I've just put it out there, but the way it looks now, a replacement cost on that, what, $1 million? Yeah.
You know, what's the outcome for in there, but it was money, you know.
I don't remember the exact amount, but it was a lot to get it back up to standards, and it's an older pool as well. So,
Okay. Carry on, James.
so then I think we'll skip ahead 2 slides because we did the next one already before. So then it's just the overall levy summary. Now, there was one area I noticed. The total change at the bottom is not 693,000. It's actually 1,042,412. So my apologies for that. It doesn't affect anything. It's just a simple subtraction error from one cell to the other. And the last slide is a graph of that previous slide.
Go ahead, Councillor.
James, do we have a total of reserve allocation that this budget represents?
Yes, so I believe you're talking about how much are we putting into
Yes,
reserves?
like
on
if
this?
we
Yeah.
look at the total scope of everything, what is our reserve based on this budget?
So into reserves, we are looking at putting $343,000 into our reserves.
plus in the 9.8, that included 250 on top of putting into reserves and debt reduction.
Yes.
All right. It's a draft.
Lots of presentations. I just have a quick report to summarize it all. Like I say, we are proposing this for your information, and we'll bring it back in the new year and with any of your recommendations or suggestions, and hopefully we can get it wrapped up or soon after that.
Through your worship, if this recommendation is approved today, we're also planning a open house to the public to come in to take a look at our draft budget, provide comments. That information will be available. And staff will also be available to answer any questions and any suggestions, and those comments would be brought back in January at the next council meeting when this report is presented.
About council, are we prepared to put this out as a draft to the public? I'm okay with it. So where's council on this one? They have a schedule, and James, thank you. You're keeping to that schedule, and it was an aggressive schedule. So I know how much work you and the committee put in and Tony put into this thing. So Councillor Doulard.
Well, it's a draft and we haven't made any decisions, and I think we need some public comment. I mean, this is not going to be exactly what it looks like, but without public comment, I think it's difficult for us to make an informed decision on what the mood of the community is. So.
Through your worship, just to add, we are looking at next Wednesday, December the 17th, as an open house. So those are the opportunities for comments to come in. So again, it's going to be available for Dutton Dunwich residents to come in, provide their comments. We will summarize those comments, bring them back to you.
Go ahead, Councillor Greifeld.
At the open house, I think it's important that counselors, if anybody wants to contact us, I think it's the time to do it right now. I would even make myself available that day, if that helps the process in explanation to the general, to the ratepayers in our community and the struggles that we've had just going through the process. But for community engagement, we need community engagement. I would like to know how the community feels about some things in our municipality, and that helps us make our decisions as well. So.
My memory's terrible. What was that date again, Tony?
It's December the 17th.
17th of December, yeah.
The 17th.
We're planning on running it 10 to 7, I believe. So it'll just be a drop-in.
Yep.
Public can drop in at any time, and staff will be present, and any counselors want to be present. Here in council chambers. Sorry, yeah, that'll be here.
Okay. Everybody good with that? Okay. Anything further, James?
No, I would just encourage anyone that's listening online to come out. These are your tax dollars. You know, like the councilors have said, and the mayor, voice your opinion. Let us know what you want. We can only make suggestions.
Okay. Thank you, James, for all your hard work. I want to
Quick comment, and again, thanks for a lot of detail here, and we may have some questions as we go through it ourselves. So we all know James's phone number. Stop in and see him someday and answer those questions. So just so that everybody realizes it's not an approved budget, it's a draft budget, and I know we've all seen some things on Facebook, and I think we're all of the we all would like to make this budget as easy as we can for people, but on the other hand, we have to do what's right for the municipality, and somewhere in the middle we may have to saw things off. So just some only comment I have.
I think the stuff on Facebook, they neglected to read the word draft. This was a done deal. So anyway, it is a draft. And we're in a good spot. We've got a budget in front of us. It's still December. And I commend you for doing that. All the hard work that went into it. So in the committee, I'm sure you yeah. Anyway, and the public needs to know that there's a lot of work that goes into this document. We take it very seriously. And everybody's done their homework. So thank you. Tara.
I just wanted to say thank you to the staff for the hard work on this. And like I said, it is a draft and we've all said it. But it also gives us a really good guide going forward so that we can get ourselves in the right direction going where we need to go as a municipality. So I do appreciate the work. And I just wanted to say that, and we'll keep working on getting a number that we all kind of love.
Okay.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the acting treasurer titled 2026 Draft Capital and Operating Budget dated December 10th, 2025 for information, and that council receives the document for review and follow up at the January 14th, 2026 meeting. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. And just further to that, before I'm done, if council wishes, we could designate a meeting strictly to deal with the budget. Okay, because I just got a paper copy on Monday morning. There's a lot of stuff in there, and I haven't spent the time I want to on the document either. So over the holidays, if you have nothing to do, have James print you a copy of that thing and enjoy yourself. Yeah, whatever it takes to get through it. Okay, let's move on. We have our winter operations report. Does everybody need a break or we're going to soldier on? Okay, keep her going. Winter operations report, this kind of standard. Comes in front of us all the time. Any comments or questions from council on that? Seeing none, Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the manager of roads and facilities titled 2025-2026 Winter Operations Planning Document dated December 10th, 2025 for information, and that council approves and supports the 2025-2026 Winter Operations Planning Document for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. And now we have a couple of tenders, the dust suppressant tender results. Anyone wish to comment on that? It's pretty straightforward, but go ahead, Tara.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Droulard, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the manager of roads and facilities titled 2026 dust suppressant tender results dated December 10th, 2025 for information, and that council award the 2026 dust suppressant tender to Eastern Salt Solutions Limited at the rate of 0.108 per liter plus HST for 2026 and 2027. All in favor? And that's carried.
Just, I'd heard that Chatham Kent is including that in their this year's budget after leaving it out last year. So I wonder why they did that.
Yeah.
And we have another tender, our gravel tender results. Council have had a chance to look at it. Any comments or questions? Tara, please.
Moved by Droulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the manager of roads and facilities titled 2026 gravel tender results dated December 10th, 2025 for information, and that council award the 2026 gravel tender to Johnson Brothers Limited at the rate of $21.97 to $22.87 per ton and $22.47 to $23.37 for 2027. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And we have a waste collection and recycling services. Report is in front of you. Just a comment on that, and Charlotte's doing a lot of great work on this file. She's exploring options for our small businesses. And one this afternoon sounded a workable arrangement. Won't have any more details than that, but staff is working on this. Any other comments or questions from council on this? Everybody's struggling with this one, every municipality. And it makes no sense, but be that as it may. Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of Murray Wickerson, manager of roads and facilities, and Charlotte Oliver, recreation and administration assistant, titled Waste Collection and Recycling Services Financial and Operational Impacts, dated December 10th, 2025, for information, and that council directs staff to enter a 1-year extension with Waste Connections for the collection of garbage, and that council supports the implementation of option 2 to discontinue curbside industrial, commercial, and institutional recycling effective January 1st, 2026, under the new blue box regulations. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, is there any unfinished business? Hearing none. Any new business? Seeing none. Any announcements? Old news probably by now, but we have a new warden, Dominic Shiger, Mayor Malahide. Ran unopposed. And I liked her speech at the end and last night was boring, and boring is good in these types of things. So I think the county's in good shape with Warren Shiger. Okay, let's deal with a bylaw or Walnut Line and Murray.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2025-54, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-50 for property municipally known as 32439 Walnut Line, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, I'm going to request a short recess here. And as we get ready to go into closed.
Do you want to go into close first?
Yeah.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drouillard, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 7:06 p.m. in accordance with section 2392 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, chapter 25, for discussion of the following matters. A, labor relations or employee negotiations, section 2392 of the Municipal Act for succession planning. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. Give me a
I don't
couple
have
minutes.
permission to get in.
Um,
We've been denied.
I don't have an agenda for you because Tony's going.
Okay.